Hello everyone, I'm bringing you a very funny Thai drama today, WorldY. This is Chad, our hero of the show, who is a self-appointed inventor who is really a tinkerer. He's the most self-absorbed hottie in the Y Love apartment. He has a roommate, Noah, who is his nemesis. No matter what he fixes, Noah manages to sabotage it, and it's not an exaggeration to say that he is a pig of a teammate. Noah makes an oddly stylized appearance, and invites Chad to join him for some babes. Chad, who is busy inventing, doesn't want to pay attention to him, and Noah sees this and throws away Chad's prized little goldfish as soon as he can. Chad accidentally eats the baby goldfish when he goes to rescue it. A surprise, Noah drops the beauty book he's holding right on Chad's crotch. Noah rushes to the rescue of his beau, and Chad gets hit by Noah's heavy thrashing and spits out his little goldfish all at once. That's quite a fate for this little goldfish. To say that this little goldfish is really something, he is one of the rarest goldfish that Chad has ever auctioned off. After all the fuss, luckily the little goldfish saved a life. Let's move on to Charlotte, the owner of the Y Love apartment, and the chartered lady of this movie. Her two guardians, Mia and Natalie, are very much at Charlotte's beck and call. Charlotte is sexually eccentric and is particularly fond of shows that show boys with boys, and even more so real-life versions of homosexuality. On this day, the three were watching BL's drama together when suddenly a fire broke out on the TV. Charlotte was very alarmed. These were her babies. The CDs were being burned mercilessly, and all Charlotte could do was cry over them from the sidelines. And the culprits are Chad and Noah, who were just messing around. They touched the power source, which caused a short circuit in the wires, and the power went out throughout the apartment. Charlotte looks like she's going to eat someone and gathers everyone in the apartment to see who is responsible for killing her CD. First, she began by grilling the oddly styled two Chinese brothers who had come from China and wanted to make their acting career in Thailand. At the time of the blackout, the two were rehearsing a play that had nothing to do with the CD homicide. Then she started grilling Olivia, who was selling mobile coffee. Olivia looks innocent. Then there's Alan, who's actually a motorcyclist. But is this little motorcycle a toy? Sure enough, everyone in the apartment was weird. Lastly, there's Noah, who has long since been stunned into silence and immodestly answers Charlotte's questions. Charlotte immediately had her right and left guards kidnap Noah and prepare to torture Noah to force him to confess. Chad, who can't stand to watch, still has a bit of a conscience, and he comes forward to admit that he's the murderer. Even though Charlotte thinks Chad is good looking, she resists the urge to kick him out when she thinks of her pathetic CDs. That's when the exceptionally good-looking beau arrives at the Y Love apartment and asks Charlotte if she has any rooms available. Charlotte is immediately enamored by the handsome man in front of her, and even lets Beau check into Chad's room. Chad, seeing that he can't undo what he was kicked out for, runs over and wraps his arms around Beau and confidently says that Beau is his boyfriend. Everyone in the room was shocked when they heard this news. Beau is also a really nice guy, even though he doesn't know who this person in front of him is and denigrates his innocence in front of so many people. Still, he didn't have the heart to break Chad down, and told everyone, as Chad had said, that they were a couple. Charlotte decides not to kick Chad out after she determines the news is true, and also immediately shifts her attitude. That's when the last person in the apartment arrived. He's Oliver, a rich kid who somehow had to squeeze into this apartment. As soon as Oliver arrives, he hears the news that Chad and Beau are a couple and is about to jump out of his skin when a quick Noah pulls Oliver away. So Beau and Chad somehow share a room. And Noah, who had previously shared a room with Chad, was assigned to Oliver's room. That's all there is to this level. Upon returning, Chad explains to the group that the tension of the moment compelled him to say that Beau and himself were lovers. That's when a hint of happiness crossed Oliver's face. Beau helped Chad through, but that doesn't mean he wants to be in the same room as Chad. In the end, though, he doesn't resist the temptation of Chad, who bribes him with his invention. Seeing that this ploy didn't work, he simply got on his knees and hugged Beau's thighs, begging him pitifully. Soft-hearted Beau had to take it. With that, a few people started working on the move. Moving into Oliver's room, Noah acts like he's never seen the world before, and everything he sees seems so rare. Since Oliver is a rich kid, some of the furnishings in the house are naturally more noble. It's so much nicer than Chad's shitty room. Noah inadvertently finds a picture of Chad, at which point Oliver suddenly gets anxious. So Oliver's always had a crush on Chad. No wonder a rich kid has to squeeze into this crappy apartment. He thought Noah had found out he liked Chad and was especially scared. However, instead of understanding this point, simple-minded Noah assumes that Oliver stole Chad's picture. Oliver is relieved to hear this and explains that he just helped Noah carry the wrong things. Noah is so innocent he doesn't see the obvious.
มึงเอาไปติดไว้ที่เดิมเลยเดี๋ยวกูไปคืนน้องมันเอง
In talking back to the Chad house, Bo is also very curious about Chad's inventions, but Chad treasures them. Bo also almost fell over from it, and Chad caught him in a hug. It was a bit of an unexpected drop when I thought the two would kiss up like that, but then Chad made a push and pulled Bo up. Bo is a little tired after a long day and wants to rest, but Chad is still working on his invention. These inventions were apparently disliked by Bo, who also said they were like garbage and made the house too crowded. On top of that, he resents the fact that Chad's clothes stink, and he doesn't even know how to wash them. Turns out Bo's a rich kid too, he's a runaway, no wonder he resents this and that. Too tired, Bo finally falls asleep, but he's soon awakened by Chad's snoring. That's quite a snore, and no matter how much Bo screams, he can't wake Chad up. In desperation, he helped Chad roll over on his back, thinking he'd stop snoring, but the snoring was coupled with an even louder growl. Bo was literally unable to sleep and tried to wake Chad up several times, but couldn't bring himself to do it. After a few struggles, he finally fights it off and Chad stops snorting. But within a few moments, Chad began another series of grunts. Bo's a real pain in the ass when it comes to people like that. Finally, dawn breaks and Bo is rattled from his bed to the floor when Charlotte comes to check on the room with 2 escorts. She also justifiably breaks into Chad's and their house with a grandiose excuse of getting a cell phone. Just before Charlotte came in, Chad jerked awake. Bo had been screaming all night without waking up and was actually awakened by Charlotte's devilish laughter. It seems that Charlotte is a devilish presence in their hearts, literally. Chad must pretend to be a real couple with Bo to hide from the devil Charlotte. Just as Chad is about to hug Bo, his shirt is really giving out too, and it's just so easily torn. In the end, Chad cuddles naked with Bo, and the scene is just in time for Charlotte, who barges in. Seeing such a powerful image, Charlotte really couldn't hold on to it, and purposely wiped her glasses with her clothes to get a clearer view. When she went to get her cell phone, she still had her hand over her whatchamacallit, moving step by step towards the table, her eyes just staring at the actual couple in front of her. Then by accident she was electrocuted. On her way out, she made a point to get a little closer to see the two of them entwined in their bodies, which was also really breathless. A new day dawned with this peculiar purr from Chad. Bo was persecuted all night long for this wonderful sleep. Not only that, but waking up, Chad turns on the stereo, opens the windows, and clangs 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 and makes noise. Eventually, Bo was insufferable. He got up and went on a rant with Chad and said that Chad's clothes simply stunk and needed to be cleaned immediately. It turns out that Bo's job is to make BL dramas on the internet to attract fans. He needed plenty of sleep to make sure he looked better. Chad was downright rude in his eyes. Chad was also a little bit upset by Bo complaining so much. So he took it upon himself to go out to the laundry. Turns out that just as soon as he leaves the house, he's avoiding Noah like he's the unlucky one. He's hallucinating because of the shock, and he's feeling Noah's shadow everywhere. As soon as he opens his eyes, Noah appears in front of him, startling Chad a bit. With that, Chad was dragged to the dorms by Noah. At this point, Oliver is doing something very strange in the house, which is drawing a boundary in the house with red tape. This boundary is still true here on the grounds that Oliver resents Noah for being really sloppy. It seems that before, Noah and Chad were a perfect match for the two of them living together. Because both were scruffy and neither one minded the other. But looking at Noah like this, he does look even sloppier than Chad. No, he had the cheek to ask Chad to do his laundry. Now we know why Chad hides from Noah when he goes to do laundry. Oliver, who is heartbroken for Chad, can't watch from the sidelines and offers to help Chad along with the laundry. And Chad is really in demand. Not only do guys have crushes on him, but girls like him too. This beauty is Michelle and has been a fan of Chad for a long time. Michelle was so big and thought she was undetected. So she boldly made her way to the apartment, only to have her identity revealed before she even reached the door. Charlotte immediately appeared at the door of the apartment as soon as the alarm sounded. It's a bit of a dominant look, no less. When Michelle learns from Charlotte that she has an additional love interest, a guy, Michelle is furious and still thinking about storming the apartment. Seeing that Charlotte's side was crowded and protected by her right and left guardians, Michelle was dragged away stiffly. Trouble lifted and Charlotte's hairpiece was out of whack. Chad doesn't realize that there's trouble on the way and goes to do some laundry with Oliver, laughing and joking. Oliver can't stand to see Chad work so hard and tries to help him with his clothes. The two of them grabbed for the clothes as if they were fighting, and both of them ended up on the ground at the same time, and the clothes just flew all over the place, all ending up on Chad's face. As he watched Oliver about to get hit by the clothes frame, Chad made a turn and shielded Oliver with his body. At this point Oliver's eyes are glowing, and he only has this protective Chad in his eyes. I thought the two of them would kiss because of it, but it just didn't work out that way. Back to Bo, that internet boyfriend Abel came to him for a photo op. He's all dressed up for winter while Bo is short-sleeved, and this whole thing makes people wonder what season it is. As soon as Abel meets Bo, he starts complaining that the apartment he's living in is just awful dirty and smelly, and he covers his nose every now and then. But he was dressed fashionably, just a bit out of season. He was about to enter the apartment when he was stopped by Charlotte, the rent-a-cop. RA has changed her outfit again. It seems she's wearing what she sees. Seeing such a handsome Abel, Charlotte became mesmerized again. Her senses were still there, though Abel's details still had to be asked for, or she wasn't allowed in the apartment. When Charlotte learns that Abel and Bo are CPs on the network, it's back to not knowing which side to be on. She just let Abel into the apartment so easily. Abel is also taken aback by Sister Laris' insanity, while Bo has seen it coming and says the whole apartment is like that. It seems that after spending time in this apartment, Bo has slowly assimilated, or at least he has learned to help the people in the apartment with their explanations. After that, what kind of strange stories will happen in this what's-his-name apartment? At the beginning of the scene, the two Chinese brothers in the laundry room striding in a strange pace to do the laundry. These two are simply too funny. Point right, this is the washing machine as a game machine. The two frantically threw coins into the washing machine, one for each of you and one for each of me. 1,000 coins were thrown into the washing machine, but the machine didn't respond at all. Is this a scam? It turns out that the two of them put in the wrong coins and the washing machine started shorting out as a result. While this is going on, Chad and Oliver finally make it to the laundry room after a long journey. As soon as they got inside, they saw that the washing machine was no longer working. This is no big deal to Chad at all as he pulls out his tools. Wait, that's a funny place to put the tool in your underwear. The image is more or less juvenile. The two Chinese brothers were also scared and turned away, but Oliver was watching with great interest. Taking out his tools, Chad set about fixing the washing machine. That's when Michelle, who has a crush on him, arrives in disguise. As she crossed the line, she was careful not to set off the alarm. However, it was good that a man's costume fooled the alarm. So Michelle managed to blend into the apartment, and found Chad in the laundry room. Excited to see Chad, Michelle gives him a hug and then starts making a big deal about Chad having a boyfriend. Just then Charlotte, the landlady, arrives in a female military costume with a gun to crush the outsiders who don't belong in the apartment. Michelle was so startled that she backed away, and several people in the laundry room matched Charlotte's movements as a greeting. Upon cross-examination, she does not realize that Michelle is a cross-dresser. That's amazing, just a change of clothes and a short haircut, and I can't believe I got away with it. It was at this moment that a plume of black smoke drifted out, and several people in the laundry room froze instantly. Chad and the two Chinese brothers thought they could block the black smoke coming out with their bodies, but the black smoke floated out from under Chad's legs. Charlotte was very angry. She knew it was the two Chinese brothers who were up to something. So there was a messy fight between a couple of guys in the laundry room. While the two guardians are frantically trying to capture the two Chinese brothers get caught in the washing machine along with Oliver. And Charlotte's washing machine is pretty amazing. The people in the laundry room just got swept up in the washing machine one after the other. Finally, Charlotte jumped into the washing machine herself. The plot is fantastical enough. At this point, Chad and Michelle were the only ones left in the laundry room. So these guys are making room for these two. Back to Bo and Abel, they had to share a drink during the photo shoot. It was so close that it made Bo's heart skip a beat, accidentally spilling his drink all over the place and getting a good whining from Abel. Then he told Bo to do his laundry right away. This jolly laundry room is pretty busy today. Bo and Abel go to do laundry and Chad is squatting there fixing the washing machine. A couple of the guys in the washing machine are also swimming happily. Not knowing what's going on, Bo drops his clothes in and just puts coins in. Chad, who had just come back to his senses, was about to stop it, but it was too late. The guys in the washing machine aren't swimming as gently as they were just now. Now they're going through a tumble. Charlotte, who was tumbled, poked her head out of the washing machine. By this time, the four men were sitting on the floor watching like a movie as they were tumbled by the washing machine and applauding a few of the men for their great performances. A couple of the guys at the washing machine could really be earning their keep. Finally, Oliver comes out and begs for help from the few people who are watching the joke. The few people in the washing machine finally came out, and one by one they dragged their feeble bodies back in like they had lost a battle. At this point, Chad and Michelle were the only ones left in the laundry room. Noah arrived before Michelle could say two words to Chad. Seeing Michelle, he was instantly addicted and managed to abduct Michelle from Chad. Chad didn't like her anyway, so it was a favor to the brother right then and there. At night, Chad talks to Bo about Abel. Chad is also secretly delighted when he learns that Bo doesn't have feelings for Abel and almost gets caught by Bo. For this reason, Chad decided to go to bed. Before he went to bed, he said goodnight to Bo twice. When Bo tries to say goodnight to him too, he hears Chad snoring. Bo is also really depressed when he meets such a roommate. On this day, another storm began in the jolly laundry room. Olivia and Alan run into each other in the laundry room, and the picture of the two of them eyeballing each other is a bit juvenile. The two of them were still racing to throw clothes in the washing machine. At this point, Olivia reminds Alan not to get caught in the washing machine. Alan thought Olivia was joking and wasn't careful at all, but ended up getting caught in the washing machine. This washer is pretty amazing. Olivia gets swept up in the washing machine to help him too. After some time together, Chad and Bo, the two roommates, get along more and more harmoniously. The two could even happily play around the apartment, hugging and chasing and fighting and eventually playing kissing, with the two coming so close to kissing each other. The scene was just in time for Michelle to see it. Michelle was so angry that she couldn't wait to get up there and interrupt him. And by now the two were in the elevator. Typically, couples put on a show of being trapped in an elevator. Sure enough, the elevator gave out and broke down. Chad took out his precious screwdriver without a fuss. This is intended to repair the elevator, by the way. At this point, Michelle also discovers the faulty elevator, so anxious that she immediately yells for Charlotte, the omnipotent one in the apartment. As soon as the words were out of her mouth, Charlotte appeared, and that was pretty fast. But instead of rushing to save the elevator, these two played a bowing game. Charlotte also almost exposed her breasts. After playing the game, Charlotte disappeared again at an alarming rate. And all the while, Chad was still working hard to fix the elevator. Bo suddenly thinks to call for help, but the poor cell phone doesn't have a single signal. Bo's cell phone was actually dead when he finally found some signal after all that effort. Now Bo instantly felt lifeless. He apologized to his parents at one time and to his country at another time, which also made people very speechless. Chad couldn't help but be a little distressed, and with a wicked grin he took his baby and turned it into a table one moment, and a chair the next. In no time at all, the scary elevator turned into a cozy resort restaurant. Bo was so rendered by the atmosphere that he had long forgotten his fear. The two of them cozily sipped their coffee and chatted about the world. As they chatted, their conversation became somewhat ambiguous. Chad manages to flirt with Bo, and the atmosphere becomes ambiguous. At this point, the people outside are working hard to fix the elevator. But Olivia and Alan are only here to fill up the numbers, and the image of the two flirting in the back is unbearable. At this point, Michelle yells out, and Charlotte immediately appears on the scene dressed in a worker's outfit. Learning that Chad and Bo are trapped in the elevator, oddball Charlotte has everyone worship the gods in front of the elevator doors. The two men in the elevator, Chad and Bo, were playing childishly. Chad snapped out how to escape the elevator, and had Bo carry him as the two of them prepared to escape over the side. As a result, the elevator kept shaking up and down. Charlotte, who has been worshipping the deity for half a day, sees no results and thinks that the deity can't hear her, so she sends Mia to get a megaphone. And it's all the work of these two Chinese brothers. At this point, the two men were discussing feng shui in the background of the elevator, one saying that the elevator switch should face up, the other saying it should face down. Just like that, the two kept switching the elevator on and off. Mia, who had gone to get the megaphone, happened to see the scene, and the two sides went straight to war over it. The Chinese brothers do their own Chinese kung fu, and Mia transforms into a beautiful girl. When the Chinese brothers struck, they were both blindsided, and just like that, the beautiful girl restored the elevator switch without a fight. The elevator doors finally open, and Chad and Bo hug in the chaos. This scene left everyone dumbfounded, especially the two protectors, who were so shocked that they couldn't move. Olivia also takes the opportunity to steal the money from MIA's hand. The poorest of the poor is Charlotte, who is stunned and dazed by the actions of both Chad and Bo. The two guardians didn't care about her anymore, still stepping over her. Chad took a moment to catch his breath on the bed when he returned to the dorm with Bo. Chad gets ready to go to the shower, and starts undressing in front of Bo. Bo is mesmerized by Chad's perfect body and says he'll go to the wash with Chad. As a result, these pants are undone halfway through the day, and Chad unbuttons them for him with a wicked grin on his face, climbing onto the bed in the process, ready to go deeper with Bo. Bo is a little bit expectant and a little bit scared when Chad has a wicked grin on his face and slaps Bo awake from his wet dreams. Chad's move is also really quite breathless. The scene shifts to the next dorm where Oliver, who sees Chad cuddling with Bo, has been moping around and asking about what Noah should do with a crush on someone. Noah pinned the inflatable doll's thighs and the thigh hugging was kind of a turn on. Hearing Oliver ask that, Noah immediately pulls out his watchful eye and hypnotizes Oliver and teaches him how to go after Chad. A hypnotized Oliver follows Noah's instructions to deliver a gift to Chad. Turns out Oliver had just left, and Bo was back. He sees Chad excitedly hugging the gift Oliver gave him, and the jealousy spills over. Chad, however, knows nothing about it, and has to ask Oliver for a kiss. Bo chases after her just in time to see the two about to kiss in the elevator. Irritated Bo loses it a bit, and coldly tells the duo to hurry up and get out. Then a sad Bo gets on the elevator alone and leaves. Chad was still dumbfounded and overwhelmed the moment the door closed. The next day Bo huffs and puffs out the door after packing up his things in his dorm room. Noah immediately came over to the bedside to ask Chad if he and Bo had gotten into a fight. The question just brought back memories of Chad's last night. After seeing Chad and Oliver embrace, Bo bumps Chad hard as he enters the elevator. He's probably jealous because he's jealous of Chad and Oliver's relationship. Just as Chad looked back and was about to tell Noah, he looked back and saw Noah lewdly licking the pretty girl in the book. It's unbelievable that Chad has such lewd friends, it's just brilliant. Later in the evening, Noah calls Michelle. It turns out that after the elevator incident, Michelle can't accept the ambiguous relationship between Chad and Bo and intends to automatically give up pursuing Chad. However, upon hearing the news of Bo and Chad's fight, Michelle on the other end of the line is immediately happy again and renews her hopes of wooing Chad. On the other hand, Bo and his cyber couple Abel are shooting a short Netflix movie. As Bo was in a bad mood, the short movie came out very badly. I'm guessing this video is going to be blamed on fans if it goes out. Back at the dorm at night, Bo is still mad at Chad, and despite Chad's best efforts to explain, Bo is not ready to ignore him. He ended up saying that he was moving out the next day. With those words, Bo got ready for bed, leaving an angry Chad to cover his pillow and growl. The next morning, Charlotte is in her room drinking wine. That's when Bo came to see Charlotte. Charlotte, in defense of her image, dumps the wine directly on Mia and Natalie. Then Bo interrupts Charlotte and says quite seriously that he wants to move. Charlotte hears this as a bolt from the blue and kicks Mia wildly to vent her frustration, while assuming that Bo is here early in the morning for a joke. As a result, Bo was very serious and emphatic. Charlotte instantly wanted to cry and ended up being so upset that she just fainted. It took Mia the scent of wine to bring Charlotte back to her senses. Because of the misunderstanding in the elevator, Bo insists on moving out of the apartment, and even when Charlotte tries to hold him back, he doesn't change his mind. What action will Charlotte take to keep Bo and protect her favorite CP? To keep Bo, Charlotte comes up with another great idea. So she called a meeting with the whole dormitory. She announced very solemnly that she had decided to have Noah and Bo switch rooms in order to ease the tension between Chad and Bo. As soon as the meeting was adjourned, the two Chinese brothers burst into thunderous applause. By the end of the night, Bo is still moping after moving into Oliver's dorm. Oliver suggests that Bo and Chad have a talk and work out the issues between the two. Bo realizes that he has fallen for Chad, while Chad, Noah, and Michelle from the next dorm are partying at the moment. The whole atmosphere was a stark contrast to the Bo's side. Chatting away, everyone got drunk. Noah wasn't going to miss the chance to show off, and he immediately got up to take Michelle home. In an instant, the only person left in the dormitory was the lone Chad. The next morning, two Chinese brothers dressed in spooky costumes frantically knock on Chad's dorm room door. When Chad opens the door, he thinks he's hit a ghost and lets out a continuous scream in terror, while the two men outside the door scream in terror at Chad's screams. The series of screams attracted Bo next door. It turns out that the two Chinese brothers want to audition for a role and want Chad and Bo to accompany them for a rehearsal. However, Bo is still angry and doesn't want to talk to Chad. So all the conversations between them were conveyed by the two Chinese brothers. The time turns to evening, and Charlotte and the right and left guardians are depressed over Bo and Chad because of what happened with Chad and Bo. That's when Charlotte comes up with a way to save her beloved CP. The next morning, Noah dreams he's going to the bathroom and winds up wetting the bed straight away and waking Chad up because of it. It was both embarrassing and exhilarating for him. Already so old but still can wet the bed also makes people very speechless. Just then, the right and left guardians Natalie and Mia show up at their bedside, calling Noah and Chad over to Charlotte for a meeting. saying that the two guardians actually frantically quarreled over a trivial matter. Sure enough, this apartment is full of oddballs. Later, Noah, Bo, and Chad arrive at Charlotte's house. But there's no one in the house but a Star Toy. Then came Charlotte's voice from Star Toys, and Charlotte was going to cancel Bo and Noah's request for a room swap. When Bo asks Charlotte why the Star Toy turns off surprisingly, Chad then left in disappointment. Immediately afterward, Charlotte's voice came from Star Toys once more. Charlotte wants Bo and Chad to open up to each other so the problem can be solved. When Bo asks Charlotte once more, the Star Toy shuts down again. Hoping this toy is an inferior product, say a word and turn it off. Noah, who was present, also began to praise Chad, saying that Chad had a big heart, and that it was better to clear up any misunderstandings in person. So that night, Bo goes back to Chad's dorm and confesses to Chad that he was upset when he saw Chad embracing Oliver that day, and that's why he ignored Chad. And Chad said that he and Oliver were just normal friends. With that said, Chad just straight up petted Bo's head. For a moment, the heartbeat index of the two men skyrocketed. Late at night, with two people looking at each other with affection plus sharing a room, it was inevitable that something would happen. The two grow closer and are about to kiss when Oliver bursts into the room. Turns out he's here to return Bo's clothes. Faced with this scene, he could only excuse himself and leave in a hurry. Eventually, Chad pushes Bo down on the bed, and Bo closes her eyes tightly in preparation. However, Chad is just lying next to Bo. The reason is that Noah wets the bed in the morning, making half the bed unsleepable. As a result, Chad had to squeeze into half of Bo's bed. Eventually, Chad turned and hugged Bo, kissing him on the forehead. It was just a forehead, but the sudden sweetness made it feel cozy too. The next morning, Bo is in bed playing with his cell phone while Chad is at the table fixing something. At that point, Oliver walks in and asks Chad if his watch is fixed. Chad hands Oliver his freshly repaired watch, yet the two shake hands and go back and forth several times without taking the watch. In the end, Bo couldn't watch and deliberately coughed a few times to get their attention before the two let go. Oliver then said there was something he wanted to talk to Chad about in private, implying that it was time for Bo to leave. Although Bo hastily says he has a shoot and has to leave now, he doesn't go too far away but eavesdrops outside the door of the room. Oliver and Chad are the only ones left in the room. Oliver begins by asking Chad if he should keep secrets from a person. After getting a negative answer, he plucks up the courage to confess his feelings to Chad. Bo at the door was instantly a little nervous, and before he could hear Chad's reply, he lost it. Thinking about spending so much time with Chad for so long, Bo breaks down and cries, thinking there's no hope for him after all. But the next minute, it's Oliver packing up his clothes and saying he's moving out. Freshly showered Noah thought he was too sloppy and was so frightened that he hastened to stay, promising to change his bad habit of being sloppy in the future. Turns out Oliver said it had nothing to do with him, it was because of Chad. So Noah was instantly curious and sat up in bed asking what had happened. Then Oliver blurts out that he and Chad confessed their love. That day he plucks up the courage to confess his love, yet Chad only sees him as a friend. Oliver thinks his rejection must have something to do with Bo, but it's also denied by Chad. Chad hugged Oliver and said he loved him, but now says he only sees him as a friend. Oliver gets a little emotional at the thought, but he soon calms down and forces himself to smile at Chad, saying that it's good to remain friends. Oliver told Noah that he lives here because he likes Chad. Unexpectedly, Noah said he already knew. He knew it when he found the picture of Chad in Oliver's room, but he couldn't say anything about it, so he had to keep pretending he didn't know. Then Noah put his arms around Oliver and comforted him. But Oliver is determined to leave because he has no more reason to continue living there. The next moment, Noah arrives in Chad's room. Chad thought Noah was going to confess to him too, but Noah told him that Oliver was ready to move out. Chad is a little surprised to hear the news, and he decides to talk to Oliver. As soon as he leaves the house, Chad encounters his Chinese brothers dressed as Neza. I wonder what these two are up to this time. And by this time, Oliver had already packed his bags, but Chad snatched his suitcase away from him and wouldn't let him leave. Chad thinks they can remain friends even after rejecting Oliver's confession. But Oliver is afraid they'll never be the same again. At that point, Chad takes hold of Oliver's arm and says that he just needs some time. Then the conversation took a steep turn when Chad said he wanted to sing and invited him along. With that, Chad left the room. On the other side, Chinese brothers dressed in festive costumes participated in the ancestor worship. Those who didn't know thought the two of them were getting ready to marry. The two were ready to burn some paper cars and worried that they couldn't drive the car alone without gasoline, so they were ready to pour some more gasoline. On the other hand, Bo pressed on to the chute but stood alone on the rooftop. His mind was filled with the sound of Oliver confessing his love for Chad. After learning that Oliver won't be moving out, Noah heartily laments that he thinks Chad's life is too much like a novel. Chad swore in all seriousness to have Michelle show up if his life was a novel. As it turns out, Michelle really does show up the next second, scaring Chad and Noah into hugging each other. Michelle says her class was cancelled today, so she came here to hang out with them. Noah quickly asks if it's because he misses him. Unexpectedly, Michelle looked pouty, clearly spoken for. That said, it's moving on too quickly. Chad also notices something strange in the atmosphere between the two of them, and is about to dig a little deeper when, to his surprise, Michelle smells a fire. It turned out that the Chinese brothers were scrambling to pour the gasoline, and accidentally let the gasoline barrel fall, whereupon the fire spread instantly. The three Chads asked them what happened, and the two dutifully told them. After hearing this, the three of them unanimously scolded them both for being so stupid. As a result, the two of them thought there was a real cow and were scared into running around. I have to say that these two Chinese brothers are definitely the funniest and stupidest people in the whole show. They have either already made a mistake, or are getting ready to do so. Now it's even set the whole building on fire. I wonder what Charlotte will do with them. Letting the whole building go up in smoke, Oliver runs over and tells everyone to run fast. Several people then realize the seriousness of the matter, and hurriedly prepared to flee. While running away, Michelle accidentally falls and Noah goes along for the princess hug. For a moment the floor was in a panic. Upon learning that it was the Chinese brothers who caused the fire, Charlotte wanted to strangle them both, but luckily everyone stopped her. Just as Chad is about to go downstairs, he suddenly remembers Bo. On the other hand, everyone downstairs escaped safely except for Chad, who was still upstairs getting ready to go to Bo. At this point, Bo is still on the roof taking in nature. Chad quietly approached and hugged him from behind. Once Bo turned around and realized it was Chad, he stopped struggling and let him hold him. Unexpectedly, that's when Chad actually confesses his love for Bo. Turns out Chad was inspired by Oliver's courage in coming forward with his confession. It's just a shame that it's a little late to confess, but no matter what happens, hell face it with Bo, even if it means dying together. Apparently Bo doesn't know what's going on yet, and with a dumbfounded look on his face, Chad wraps his arms around him tightly. Chad then tells Bo that the building is on fire, and tells Bo not to worry, just stay close to him, and hold him tight. So Bo said nothing and dutifully hugged Chad close. It's a sweet picture, but will you two respect the fire? Bo then offers to wrap his arms around Chad, marveling at how the two of them have such a sizzling love for each other. Bo flirted with the idea of how it could not be hot since it was all on fire. When he was finished, Bo initiated a kiss on Chad. After kissing each other goodbye, they helped each other escape from the building. Chad appears to have suffered some injuries, but they escaped the fire safely and everyone is happy. Even though the fire didn't seem to have much power, everyone had fun spinning and dancing. Afterwards, Charlotte finds the Chinese brothers for cleaning the entire apartment. As it happens, Bo and Chad pass by and Charlotte immediately goes up to inquire how they are both doing. Chad says he's now Bo's boyfriend and Charlotte is very happy. Sure enough, it was an accomplishment to have single-handedly made this couple. Back in the room, Bo prepares to wipe Chad's body. However, Chad takes advantage of the situation and asks Bo to help him undress. Upon rubbing his chest, Chad's heartbeat is unusually loud, which he explains is because the person in front of him is Bo. During the rubbing, Bo's hand drifted downwards, so Chad closed his eyes, gripped the pillow tightly, and prepared himself for enjoyment. As a result, a hard punch from Bo brings him back to reality. After the body scrub, Bo began to feed Chad. So where exactly did Chad get hurt, or is it just that all the little lovers have no hands? After eating, Bo handed Chad his medicine. As a result, Chad pretends to take the pills but actually secretly hides them in his hand. When Bo found out, he had to take the pills obediently and check them over for Bo afterwards. Afterward, Chad exclaims that Bo is like his wife, or just be his wife. This straight up puts Bo into a whole lot of shyness. He picked up his plate and ran. After that, the two fought with pillows and got feathers all over the room, even on both their heads. After the fight, Chad makes faces at Bo and pouts. Unexpectedly, Bo suddenly gets serious and comes over to ask Chad if he wants to go out with him. So after making the room buzz, you two actually haven't confirmed your relationship yet? After asking, Bo looked at Chad with an expectant look on his face. Unexpectedly, Chad sighed after a long hesitation. Turns out that day on the rooftop, he just didn't want to make himself regret in the future. That's why he said those things to Bo, and now he doesn't want to be in a relationship yet. That makes it incomprehensible. The two of them have kissed and rubbed their bodies together, and called their wives. Is it inappropriate to say that they don't want to be in a relationship now? As it turns out, Chad is an orphan who feels that now that he has nothing he must follow his dreams on his own. That's why he's always felt that it's not a good time to be in a relationship even if the object is Bo. Bo tries to struggle a little more but Chad resists. And finally he said, "It's me who doesn't deserve you." However, when Bo leaves, Chad cries instead. Later in the shoot, Bo mistook Abel for Chad and almost kissed him. Good thing he reacted at the end and stopped in time. But I didn't realize that the misadventure made the shoot so good that everyone was praising Bo. But Bo was thinking about what Chad had said. Then Bo decided he wanted to resign. On the other hand, Michelle dresses up as a boy and tries to get into the apartment but is recognized by Charlotte. In the end, Michelle had to lie and say she was looking for a boyfriend. At first, Charlotte doesn't believe it, but Michelle says his boyfriend is Noah because she's impressed by Noah's life. In the end, Charlotte let Michelle into the apartment. Michelle made a point of changing back into women's clothes before going in. Then Michelle sat on the bed with a sheepish look on her face and looked at Chad and Noah. Noah is curious as to how Charlotte let Michelle, and so Michelle tells the truth and how much she likes Noah. Upon hearing this, Noah instantly crawled into bed. Chad feels that he should leave now, but Michelle tells him to stay. So Chad takes out his mask and puts it on, pretending he can't see. Then Michelle asked Noah if he wanted to be her boyfriend. Noah naturally agreed without hesitation. Next to him, Chad was shocked. So it's that simple for two people to be together? Michelle didn't quite understand Chad's question. In her opinion, two people can be together if they like each other and separate if they don't, even if they don't know the future, but they can try first. Chad was like a blessing in disguise, but it was too late. On the other hand, Bo made the decision to reach out to his father. Later in the evening, Bo approaches Charlotte and says that he's moving out for good because his father wants him to come home, and that it would be good for Chad if he moved out so he could focus on following his dreams. Charlotte, who is particularly tender in this moment, offers to help Bo throw a farewell party, and Bo agrees. Soon it was time for the party. I didn't realize that this was still a women's party, and not only did everyone wear women's clothes, but they also gave themselves girl names. Everyone's here but Chad. At the moment, Chad is still in his room reminiscing about the past few hours when he gleefully told Bo that Michelle and Noah were together, not realizing that what he got back was the news that Bo was moving out of his apartment for the night. Just as Chad is grieving alone, Oliver comes into the room and urges him to change into women's clothes, but Chad says he doesn't like partying and will skip the party. Seeing this, Oliver simply sits down and advises Chad that even if they don't get together in the future, at least they won't feel any regrets after saying goodbye. The scene comes to the party where everyone is having a good time and Chad is still torn between changing into women's clothes. At this point, Bo went back to his room and started packing his clothes. The party was overhead. Get his clothes and leave. Seeing this, Chad silently put away the women's clothes in his hands. After packing his bags, Bo came and sat down next to Chad and the two chatted for a few moments, but Chad never uttered a word of retention. Finally, Bo gets up and gets ready to leave, and Chad isn't even going to see him off. Hearing this, Bo had tears in his eyes, but he still turned around and forced a smile, and said it was okay. Throughout, Bo waited for Chad to say a goodbye, at least as a friend. But Chad didn't want to talk about it, and until the end, Bo didn't wait for the words and had to turn away. And behind him, Chad struggled to reach out a hand to stay, but that hand never touched Bo. Thinking about the moments he used to spend with Bo, Chad couldn't help but cry. But what's the use of just crying if we don't go after them? Our wives will really be gone. After saying goodbye to everyone one by one, Bo turned and got on the ship. Yes, it's the airship. Everyone watched him leave before Chad arrived. It's a good thing Charlotte was prepared for this, as she got Chad a spacesuit to make it easier for him to go after Bo. Immediately after Astronaut, Chad apologized to Astronaut Bo one way or another. Actually, Chad really loves Bo, it's just that the helmet is a little too big right now. In response, Bo said he loves Chad too, but the helmet is really big. Bo asked Chad to continue to fulfill his dream because Bo has his own dream to fulfill. Chad's dream is to be the owner of a repair store, and Bo's dream is to be the owner's wife of a repair store. So Bo is trying to find a way to confess. At this point, this fantastical comedy is very quickly over. The whole show still contains a lot of laughs and is really very engaging. Well, that's it for today's commentary. Remember to leave your thoughts in the comments section if you have any. Well, see you next time.